Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. And boy, oh boy, do we have some breaking news here today. The Philadelphia Eagles have agreed to trade quarterback Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional second-round pick in 2022. This is a really big deal here. That conditional second-round pick in 2022 does actually become a first-round pick if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps for the Indianapolis Colts this season, or if they make the playoffs and he plays 70% of the snaps. Now, to me, I think it's very likely that next season he does play 70 to 75% of the snaps. I am sure that he will be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. They wouldn't give up this kind of compensation for him to not get that starting job there in Indianapolis. And like Mike Garafolo says here, headed for a reunion with Frank Reich. Obviously, has worked with him in the past there in Philadelphia. That's where he found a lot more of his success. Frank Reich, known now as being a very good offensive coach, has gotten a lot out of that Indianapolis offense in recent years. Really kind of resurrected Phillip Rivers' career in his final season before retirement. Turned around what was a bad season for him with the Chargers the year before. Now he's looking to do the same thing with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had one of the worst years in the NFL, to be completely honest, this past year. Had 15 interceptions, 16 touchdowns, didn't throw for a lot of yards. However, he didn't have a lot of help here in Philadelphia, and now he goes to Indianapolis, a team with a much better offensive line, in my opinion, a team that is really built out on that defense. They've been a high-performing defense for the last few years, and they get now they're starting QB, and Carson Wentz, a guy who had been in the MVP conversation in the past. Possibly could he turn it around? I'm less sold on him as a product, but one really big thing here for the Indianapolis Colts is the only asset that they gave up that is going to affect their near immediate future is that 2021 third-round pick. Yes, that second rounder that can conditionally be a first rounder is a big deal, but it gives the Colts 2 picks in the top 60 this year, obviously their first-round pick and their second-round pick, to go out and help build up this team around Carson Wentz. You could look at them using their first-round pick maybe on a wide receiver or an offensive tackle to help protect Carson Wentz, or give him an option to throw the football to. That is going to be a question mark for me. Is T.Y. Hilton back next year? Who are they going to put around Carson Wentz at that wide receiver position? Look to them maybe using their first-round pick to do so, or possibly their second-round pick. I think that they're going to strongly look at tackle and wide receiver in the first 2 rounds this year. Maybe also a cornerback to replace Xavier Rhodes. He is expiring. He will be a free agent this offseason. I'm not sure what his market looks like, but it is possible he could leave the Colts as well. But for me right now, I have to say that I think the Indianapolis Colts did win this trade, just with the slight edge that they got a starting level quarterback here. And the only asset that they had to give up that is in the immediate future is that 2021 third-round pick. Sure, that conditional second-round pick that could be a first-rounder is a high-end asset as well. But the Colts, a very good team, that pick's going to be a little bit lower. And if Carson Wentz does get them to the playoffs, it is well worth the first-round pick, giving up that for a QB that is a playoff-level quarterback. If Carson Wentz does end up being that, I think that that is a very good situation for the Indianapolis Colts. And worst case, if this doesn't work out with Carson Wentz, you didn't really give up that much of much in assets. Looking at what Matthew Stafford just commended on the market, this is a much more manageable deal. This is a much better deal for the Indianapolis Colts than I think what the Rams ended up paying for a guy like Matthew Stafford. Sure, Stafford is way more consistent, and I think a better overall QB than Wentz, but Wentz is still young. There's still some potential here for him to continue to get back to form, and I think mentally, not having a QB over his shoulder that could take his job like he has had in Philadelphia with both Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts will be really good for him mentally, knowing that he's the guy there in Indianapolis, and I think Frank Reich's going to put a lot of confidence back into him as well. So let's take 1 minute here to look at what this Carson Wentz deal does mean for the Philadelphia Eagles. This means that Jalen Hurts is probably their quarterback. The only way I don't see that being the case is if Zach Wilson fell to them at 6. Maybe they would think about that. However, I think Jalen Hurts is the Eagles starter next season. Also, what does this mean for the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, you get an asset this year that you can maybe use on a linebacker in round 3. They have a history of doing that. They need to improve that secondary. That third rounder gives you a little bit of flexibility and maybe being aggressive on draft day, moving up some assets to go get a guy you really like, Devontae Smith possibly. If they felt like they needed to move up to grab him in the draft, that could be an option for them now at this point as well. But The Eagles have positioned themselves fairly well as well, getting that 2022 second-round pick that could conditionally be a first-round pick. You're looking at a higher-end asset for a guy that they didn't feel comfortable having as their franchise QB moving forward. They had felt uncomfortable about that for over a year now when they went back to grab Jalen Hurts in the draft last year. They didn't have, the utmost confidence in Carson Wentz as their franchise QB. Here, they get some assets back for him. And here's the thing about the quarterback spot. Even with poor performance, it is the most tradable player and position on the football field. Everyone's always in the market for improving their QB situation. The Colts here ran into a little bit of difficulty with Jacoby Brissett not being under contract. Phillip Rivers retiring from the NFL left them in a position of need for that QB spot. I wasn't sure exactly which way they would go. This has long ramifications around the NFL. Sam Darnold probably won't have as real of a trade suitor anymore with the Colts making this move for Carson Wentz. I thought the Colts would really have been interested in Sam Darnold. However, this move for Carson Wentz does not make that likely any longer. That has ramifications on a whole bunch of different things. Maybe the Jets don't look for a quarterback at pick 2 now overall because they don't have a market for Sam Darnold as much as they once did. That's an interesting thing. Maybe the Chicago Bears are a team still in play for a QB like Darnold, but we'll see that. You guys have to be subscribed to make sure you're not missing out on any of our content here at Utility Sports. We're coming at you with all the breaking news around the NFL. And wow, what a big trade today. Carson Wentz will be an Indianapolis Colt. I think he'll have a pretty solid season there. I think he's going to bounce back from what he has been the last couple of years and really start to solidify himself as an average QB again in the NFL. I think that's really where he is. I think there's some high-end potential with him still yet. I know he's getting a little bit older, but he's still not an old quarterback. He's still young in my estimation of what the position looks like, how QBs age over time. And I think that this is a good buy low move for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think this move makes a lot of sense for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. Moving on from Wentz, giving him a fresh start and giving that franchise a fresh start. He just wasn't going to be their guy anymore. I don't think Jalen Hurts is their guy, but I think that this is a win-win scenario for both teams. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, smash that like button, and we'll catch you in the very next video.